Welcome everyone to session number 220 of Kevin Reads A Course in Miracles. Today we are on page 600 in the text, and that brings us to chapter 28, which is appropriately entitled The Undoing of Fear. And we will be focusing on section 5, Roman numeral 5. Right? Remember, the Roman soldier goes into the bar, holds up 2 fingers and says, "I'll have 5 beers." Okay then. That's about the 40th time I've said that joke. Cracks me up every time. But I've already digressed. The alternative to dreams of fear. Section 5. The alternative to dreams of fear. Let us get into it. Paragraph 1. What is a sense of sickness but a sense of limitation, of splitting off and splitting from? A gap that is perceived between you and your brother, and what is now seen as health. And so the good is seen to be outside, the evil in, and thus is sickness separating off the self from good and keeping evil in. God is the alternative to dreams of fear. Who shares in them can never share in him, but who withdraws his mind from sharing them is sharing him. There is no other choice. Except you share it, nothing can exist. And you exist because God shared his will with you, that his creation might create. All righty then. So, what is a sense of sickness except a sense of limitation? And once we believe we've separated off from the oneness, separated off from God, we perceive ourselves as limited. We have limited ourselves. We are no longer part of the infinite. We are finite, put it that way. Okay? That's a sense of limitation. All right? And that's what he's saying. That's what sickness is. And sickness is a splitting off. We split off from the oneness. And what you split off from, you forget. Right? A splitting off from and a separating from. Right? So he says that's what the sickness is. We're not talking about things that manifest in form. He says the real sickness is your belief that you're separated from God. Right? A gap that is perceived between you and your brother. Right? That's part of the sickness. Now there's a gap between me and you. Some kind of a distance. Right? Some kind of a gap. Right? And he says, so what is health now? And so the good is seen to be outside and the evil in. Right? And thus is sickness separating off the self from good and keeping evil in. Right? So we separated ourselves, we think we separated ourselves, right, from the goodness, and we have this, and that's our secret deep down inside. That's the evil that we keep within. So we think, is that we did it, we separated. Right? And because we think we separated deep down inside, I don't think we ever get in touch with the original thought of separation, and the fear that it brought in, okay, the fear of retribution from the Creator, right? That fear that It's worse than that fear that your mother would instill in you when she said, wait till your father gets home. All right? So you would live in that anticipation of fear and trembling and chaos and retribution. All right? And then he just says it right out. There's no two ways about it. In sentence 6, God is the alternative to the dreams of fear. All right? Once we believe we're separated from the oneness, once we believe we achieved individuality, this is me, all right? Or even before I believed that this is me, that split second before, when I believed in separation, I was immediately afraid. All right? The guilt that demands punishment caused the fear. Immediately. That's how powerful the mind is. We're not aware of how powerful the mind is. I mean, there's people that, study it and they tell us about the wonders of it, but most of us don't have an inkling on how powerful the mind really is. All right? There's a really intriguing sentence in the text somewhere where Jesus says, well, it's probably right in the beginning, right? In the miracle principles, all thought produces form on some level. Okay, then. All right. Who shares in these dreams of fear cannot share in the experience of the Creator. All right. It's one or the other. It says there is no other choice. All right. Who shares in these dreams of fear can never share in Him. But who withdraws his mind from sharing them is sharing Him. There is no other choice. Except you share it, nothing can exist. And you exist because God shared His will with you, that His creation might create. Right? God shared His will with you so that you can create as God does. It's expanding, just expanding, everything everywhere. Right? And so he says, who shares in these dreams of separation can never share in the oneness. It's one or the other. All right? But he says, but if you withdraw your mind from the belief, that firm, locked-in belief that you're separated, right? You are sharing the oneness. You're participating in it. All right? And as I've been saying recently, my experience of this is incremental. Right? We divorce ourselves from the thought of separation momentarily, and in that moment we are sharing in the oneness. Right? And if I'm willing to see correctly, right, my perceptions will change. Right? And it's, as I say, in my experience, it's incremental. Right? Unlike St. Paul on the road to Damascus. Coffee time. So, by sharing these dreams, it's what he was saying in the previous section about buying into the other person's situation, buying into their act, so to speak, buying into their experience, and agreeing, yes, this is what it is. Yeah, we're all in this. We're all separate. So someone says, I'm without the love of God. It manifests in so many different ways, And if we're sharing in this dream, we're saying, yeah, you are, so am I, so am I. And it just reinforces the idea of separation. But if you withdraw your belief in that, even for an instant, you are sharing in the oneness for that instant. And that instant can extend. It can become longer and longer. Right? Because he did say in the last section, he reminds us that you will like the results that you experience, right, with the practice. And the practice is stepping back from this dream that is so convincing and vivid. Right? Just stepping back for a moment, questioning it, looking at it, and thinking, help me to see this correctly, help me to see this differently. As I say, use your own words. What does love look like? What does kindness look like? Okay? So he says, except you share it, nothing can exist. All right? In the sharing, it is the sharing of the evil dreams of hate and malice, bitterness and death, of sin and suffering and pain and loss that makes them real. Right? This is paragraph 2. Right. So it's when I buy into that system, and that's my message. And I give that message in different ways. You don't need to be teaching and preaching. You can just by your everyday life. Right? Okay, I did close the window. It's by sharing the evil dream. It's by saying, look at me. I am the victim of the world. Look what's being done to me. I didn't want to be here. All those things. All right? I'm sharing in the dreams of hate and malice. You know, I mean, and it gets to that specific point too. If I'm out there hating somebody or despising them so much that I wish them, I wish some kind of bad thing on them, or else I'm always speaking of, bitterness and death, pain and loss. I'm making it all real. Making it all real. And if I don't buy into that, if I don't share that, right, all these things, this bitterness, this hatred, the malice, the sin and suffering, and so it all becomes meaningless if I withdraw my belief in it. If I question it, that's withdrawing belief. Just question it momentarily. Then I'm not sharing it, and it becomes meaningless. Right? Unshared, they are perceived as meaningless. The fear is gone from them because you did not give them your support. It's something I recall we were talking about in the last session. Right? Even if we're trying to support a loved one who's in the midst of this propagation of pain and loss and suffering and bitterness, right? We can be as kind and comforting and as supportive as possible without reinforcing that dream of bitterness and victimhood and all those things, right? Because I didn't give them my support, the fear is gone. In other words, the separation is gone. Right? Because if I give them my support, we're only reinforcing that whole system of thought that revolves around sin, guilt, and fear. Right? Separation, guilt, fear. That's the lifeblood of this entire experience of form. Right? But because you didn't give it your support, the fear is gone. Right? Even if it's just momentarily. Because sometimes it's hard. You're dealing with loved ones, on a practical basis. Jesus is giving us the bottom line. And he knows that we're going to take this and go out into the world and experience the world on a minute-to-minute basis. Right? In 1 minute, I might be dealing with a loved one who is in, just that mindset that this is horrible, this is sad, this is regrettable, this is, all kinds of things. Okay? Everybody's family has the situations. Right? And we can still be supportive and not buy into the idea of, every day is bad, things are getting worse, and I don't want to be here. We don't have to buy into that. All right. Then he says in paragraph 2, sentence 4, something we can dwell on and take some comfort in. He says, where fear has gone, there love must be. Excuse me. Where fear has gone, there love must come. Sorry. Because there are but these alternatives. Where one appears, the other disappears. And which you share becomes the only one you have. You have the one that you accept because it's the only one you wish to have. And that becomes a practice too, by noticing, I'm buying into this whole idea of deprivation and victimhood and whatever. Right? And then I can ask myself, what is it that I want to experience? And this is all in the process of looking. You realize, we're in this situation here. So I'm now looking at the situation and I have that choice. What is it that I want to experience? And he says there's only two experiences, fear or love. All right. And which you share becomes the only one you have. And I can share my love just by connecting to my mind, my right mind. And asking, I'm willing to see the love. I am sharing the love at that moment because the minds are joined. There's only one mind. As Dr. Wapnick once said, that when the subject came up in one of his classes, he says, it could be said that we're all one gigantic dissociative identity disorder. Right? That's how powerful the mind is. Okay? And I'm just amazed at how, I've been looking at some reports on social media, of course, from systems, dissociative identity disorder systems, right? And they're very enlightening, actually, very enlightening. But I digress. All right. All we have to remember is where one appears, the other disappears. Where love appears, fear disappears. It becomes that simple. Okay? That's why Jesus always throws it in there. This course is very simple. It's very simple, but it's not that easy. It takes that constant diligence to realize, oh yes, I have drifted back into the fear, the thought system of sin, guilt, and fear. And at that point you have a choice. What is it you want? All right. Oh, I want the love. I want to experience love. I want to experience that peace of mind. And the one that you share becomes the only one you have. All right. You have the one that you accept because it's the only one you wish to have. All right. He's always giving us the responsibility. It's my responsibility to choose. I don't want the fear anymore. So I ask my higher self, actually, I ask my true self in my right mind, the Holy Spirit, Jesus, all those symbols, help me to see the truth. In that moment, I'm connected with the memory of love. And that's the one I wish to have. And that's what I will become and extend. Right now I'm getting the image of like a strobe light. Boop, boop. All right, that's how I imagine myself when I choose. I come back to the right mind, and I want to see things correctly. All right. Then a amount of time goes by, and I'm back into the system of fear. So the light goes on, goes off, goes on, goes off, until I can get to the point where the light stays on. Alrighty then. Where one appears, the other disappears, and which you share becomes the only one you have. And you have the one that you accept because it's the only one you wish to have. It's all up to me, all up to you. Okay. Love or fear? Paragraph 3. You share no evil dreams if you forgive the dreamer and perceive that he is not the dream he made. And so he cannot be part of yours, from which you both are free. Forgiveness separates the dreamer from the evil dream, and thus releases him. Remember, if you share an evil dream, you will believe you are the dream you share. And fearing it, you will not want to know your own identity, because you think that it is fearful. And you will deny yourself and walk upon an alien ground which your Creator did not make, and where you seem to be a something you are not. You will make war upon yourself, which seems to be your enemy, and will attack your brother as part of what you hate. There is no compromise. You are yourself or an illusion. What can be between illusion and the truth? A middle ground where you can be a thing that is not you must be a dream. It cannot be the truth. Right? He's saying there can't be a middle ground, can't be a compromise, can't be lukewarm. Right? It's one or the other. There is no compromise. You are yourself, with a capital S, the offspring of the Creator, made in the Creator's image, or you're an illusion. Hi, I'm Kevin. Nice to meet you. And he says, so in the beginning of the paragraph 3, he says, you share no evil dreams if you forgive the dreamer and perceive that he is not the dream he made. And this is a process. All right? I just need to be willing to see the other correctly. I don't buy into their dream. I don't let it affect me. I don't let it push my buttons. All right. I just ask, help me to see the truth. Help me to see the love. All right. Help me to see the innocence. All those things. Right? So in this way, you're not sharing in that belief system. Yes, I'm separated from God. My life is horrible. These people, look what they did to me. Right? Look what I am. Look what they continue to do to me. All right? I mean, so we don't need to share that dream, and we could still be supportive and loving, believe me. All right? So you're not sharing that dream if you are willing to see the dreamer correctly. Help me to see past the act. Help me to see past this disguise that they truly believe they're in. All right? They're all wonderful actors and actresses. They really take on that role and get into it. All right? So you forgive the dreamer by asking to see them correctly, and you perceive that they're not the dream that they made. Right? They're really not who they think they are. Right? And you don't have to tell them that. Nothing. You just be supportive. Be nice. Be kind. Right? And the love will come through, and their mind will eventually lighten up with the love. And it will dawn on them, sooner or later, that they are not guilty either. All right? So you perceive that he is not the dream that he made. All right? He's not separate from God. And so he cannot be a part of yours. So we can't be in a dream. All right? Because we're not separate. All right? So we're both free from the dream. Forgiveness separates the dreamer from the evil dream and thus releases him. Right? The idea that I'm willing to see the innocence, I'm willing to allow the presence of love to rise up in my awareness. It separates me from the evil dream, which is the belief in separation. I destroyed the oneness. Look out, kid, it's something you did. Okay. Forgiveness separates the dreamer. Remember, if you share an evil dream, you will believe you are the dream you share. Right? If you buy into the separation, you become a part of that evil dream. And fearing it, you will not want to know your identity. Because part of that evil dream is the fear of retribution. All right? And he says, so you won't go to your mind to find out who you really are. Because you're afraid of who you really are. Because you think it is fearful. You think your true identity is fearful. You think it's fearful to see the other's innocence. And fearing it, you will not want to know your own identity. And you will deny yourself with a capital S. Excuse me. You will deny yourself and walk upon an alien ground that your Creator did not make. So we buy into the dream, and you become this other alien self that your Creator didn't make, and you're walking upon ground that your Creator didn't make. Jesus is giving us he's laying out these alternatives very crisply. All right. And you seem to be a something you are not. If you buy into the separation, you seem to be a something that you are not. I seem to be this something. And most of the times it's very convincing. Right? That's why Jesus asks us to be vigilant for when I'm buying into it and just ask for the correction. You don't need to know. You don't need to plan what the correction is. And you seem to be something you're not. And you'll be making war on your true self. No, this is me. I'm not the offspring of the Creator. I'm not a thought in the mind of God. I'm not an effect of the original cause. And your true self will seem like an enemy, which seems to be your enemy, and it will attack your brother as a part of what you hate. All right? This very quickly gets projected out. And he says, look, there is no compromise. Right? As Dr. Wapnick once said, it's like driving a car that has no neutral. It's either drive or reverse. He says there is no compromise. And you are yourself or an illusion. Just let that sink in. Try not to let it scare you or overwhelm you. Just keep that in your mind. You're either this wonderful higher self, or you're an illusion. You're part of a dream. Right? And he says, in the last sentence in paragraph 3, what can be between illusion and the truth? He says, one way or the other. What could be in between? Nothing. He says, what could be there? A middle ground where you can be a thing that is not you? A middle ground where you could be a thing that is not you must be a dream and cannot be the truth. Okay? Just let those, I believe Ken would call that a level 1 statement, let them sink in, all right? And work toward the realization. That's all. Don't be afraid of who you truly are. Or if you are, ask for help with that. Remember, Jesus, that symbol of Jesus is there as a very, very good friend. Think of someone you really, really trusted. You really loved them because they would always be there. And that's Jesus. All right, for those of us in the Course. All right. I love the Irish description of it, anam cara. That's here in form. All right. If you have an anam cara, you're very lucky. That's a person who will listen to you and not judge you and be there for you. And they're not buying into your sadness and your anger. Right? They're just there for you. Right. So a middle ground where you could be a thing that you're not must be a dream, cannot be the truth. Paragraph 4, he says, you have conceived a little gap between illusion and the truth. you've conceived the little gap between illusions and the truth to be the place where all your safety lies, and where yourself is safely hidden by what you have made. Here is a world established that is sick, and this is the world the body's eyes perceive. Here are the sounds it hears, the voices that its ears were made to hear. Yet sights and sounds the body can perceive are meaningless. It cannot see nor hear. It does not know what seeing is and what listening is for. It is as little able to perceive as it can judge or understand or know. Its eyes are blind, its ears are deaf. It cannot think, and so it cannot have effects. Right? That's, when you think about that, he's telling us this form is an illusion. It's an hallucination, if you will. He says, and everything you think it's doing, it can't do. All right? He says, what you have conceived a little gap. Like there's some place you can exist between the illusions and the truth. All right? He says, you think you're safe there. All right? And where your true self is safely hidden. Right, by what you've made, this entire physical universe. Right? You think you can hide your true self there. Right? He says, this is a world that's established that is sick. And he says, and this is what your body's eyes perceive. Right? This is what the senses report to us. But he says, look, these senses are meaningless also. Right? In the oneness, there is only the abstract oneness, the abstract spirit. Yet sights and sounds the body can perceive are meaningless. He says it cannot see nor hear. It doesn't know what seeing is. It is as little able to perceive as it can judge or understand or know. Right? So the body is not capable of perceiving correctly. Right? So he's pretty much wiping us out here. But as I say, it's up to us to work up to these realizations. And that's why it's necessary to undo fear. Because to come to these realizations is kind of fearful. What? My eyes? I'm not what I'm reading? You're telling me that I'm not seeing what I think is on the page here? All right. Don't do that to me. That's why I say we take this incrementally. You just be willing to allow the truth to rise up in your awareness. The truth is not going to be painful. It's not going to be fear-inducing. It will make you happier and happier as it rises. All right. So paragraph 5. What is there that God created to be sick? And what that he created not can be. Right? Let not your eyes behold a dream, your ears bear witness to illusion. They were made to look upon a world that is not there, to hear the voices that can make no sound. Yet are there other sounds and other sights that can be seen and heard and understood. For eyes and ears are senses without sense. And what they see and hear, they but report. It is not they that hear and see, but you, who put together every jagged piece, each senseless scrap and shred of evidence, and make a witness to the world you want. Let not the body's ears and eyes perceive these countless fragments seen within the gap that you imagined, and let them persuade their maker their imaginings are real. So what he's saying very poetically is make the choice to have our perceptions corrected. Right? He says, let not the body's eyes and ears perceive their countless fragments within the gap that you imagined, and let them persuade you that this is real. He says, because he says in paragraph 5, sentence 5, there are other sounds and sights that can be seen and heard and understood. Right? I believe he's talking to us about what we refer to in the Course as the happy dream. Right? As we are awakening more and more to the realization of who we are and the realization of the oneness, everything that our senses report to us will have a different message. They'll be reporting to us about the oneness and the love that's around us. So these things can be seen and heard and understood. Because he says the senses are what does he call them? For eyes and ears are senses without sense. And what they see and hear, they but report. So they're only reporting what my separated mind has asked them to report. Once I go back into the mind and I help me to see correctly, I'm asking my right mind, I'm asking my true self to show me the corrected version of what's in front of me. And so my relative that's having a really bad day, or my friend that's having a really bad day, right? They don't want to be here anymore. Right? I go to my right mind, and the love in my mind will help me perceive them correctly. Right? And I will not be buying into the dream of fear. Right? Because it's not they that hear and see, but you, who put together every jagged piece and every senseless scrap and shred of evidence and make a witness to the world you want. So let not the body's eyes and ears perceive these countless fragments. Let them persuade you that their imaginings are real. Right? Ask and enlist the help of your right mind. Paragraph 6. Creation proves reality because it shares the function all creation shares. It is not made of little bits of glass, right? A piece of wood, a thread or two, perhaps all put together to attest its truth. Reality does not depend on this. There is no gap that separates the truth from dreams and from illusions. Truth has left no room for them in any place or time, for it fills every place and every time and makes them wholly indivisible. But when we get in touch with the right mind, right, There is no gap anymore that separates the truth from dreams. All right? The truth comes in to fill up that gap. And the truth leaves no room for any of these scraps, anything, in any place or time. For it fills every place and every time and makes them wholly indivisible. So when I get in touch with the truth, it fills in. It comes to take the place of everything I think is in this little gap. Right? And it really does. It dissolves time, which is another subject altogether. So, paragraph 7. The whole idea is getting in touch with the right mind and being willing to see the corrected perception. And like I say, use your own words. I'm going to keep saying that from now until the end of our text. Let me see what love, I'm willing to see love. I'm willing to experience it. A friend of mine was telling me there was no more comfort left in the world. And one of our thoughts was that, like I say, use your words and ask, go inside and just ask Jesus, your brother, right? Please take me to that place of comfort. Take me to that place where I will feel the comfort, the peace. Okay. So, paragraph 7, you who believe there's a little gap between you and your brother, you don't see that that it is here you are prisoners in a world perceived to be existing there. The world you see does not exist because the place where you perceive it is not real. The gap is carefully concealed in fog, and misty pictures rise to cover it with vague, uncertain forms and changing shapes, forever unsubstantial and unsure. Yet in the gap is nothing. And there are no awesome secrets and no darkened tombs where terror rises from the bones of death. Look at the little gap, and you behold the innocence and emptiness of sin. That you will see within yourself when you have lost the fear of recognizing love. All right. It's a beautiful thought to dwell on. Just look. All right. Jesus is always asking us, look. Just look at what you believe. That's what he means by look at the gap. Look at what you believe. You think there's a little separation between you and your brother, between you and God. And everything takes place in that little gap. He says, yet in the gap is nothing. All right? There are no awesome secrets. All right? You're never separated from God, that deep secret that we hold on to. He says there's no darkened tombs where terror rises from the bones of death. Very poetic. We didn't destroy the oneness. We didn't destroy God, and then he's going to rise up and get us. He says that's not happening. He says just look at the little gap. Just observe. And you behold the innocence and the emptiness of sin. Just look at what you do believe. and being willing to have it retranslated, and you will behold the innocence. And you will behold the emptiness of sin. It's just not happening. It doesn't exist. And you will see that innocence that you will see within yourself. You'll behold the innocence. You'll behold the lack of sin. There is no sin. And you will see these things when you have lost the fear of recognizing love. All right. This paragraph, I have a little note. Ken directed us to the idea of Plato's cave, where there's a group of people in a cave, been there. They don't even know how long they've been there. They look, all they see is on the wall. They see the shadow figures from the opening in the cave. People walking past the opening. They don't turn around. They don't realize. Right? So all they see are the shadows. Right? You're prisoners in a world that perceived to be existing here in the cave. Right? The world you see does not exist because the place where you perceive it is not real. So in that little gap you think is between you and God, where the world exists, he says it's not real, so the world's not there. All right. And you will not be afraid of that thought with practice, with the desire to see correctly, with the willingness to allow the truth to rise up in your mind. That's all it takes. Don't be judging yourself, right? That's a detriment. That's it's an obstacle. Don't be judging yourself. Oh, I've been doing this. Look at the mistake I made. I called this guy a nasty name this morning. You choose once again. You make the choice. All right? Because the gap is nothing. All right? Just look at the little gap. And you behold the innocence and the emptiness of sin that you will see within yourself when you have lost the fear of recognizing love. When you are willing to see the truth, all these things will rise up in the mind. So, just continue to dedicate yourself to truth. Don't judge yourself when you step back. All right? Some days you hit the target and some days you don't. And when you don't magnify the problem. Don't reinforce it. Just ask for correction. When you think, oh, I'm this and that, that's a good time to ask your very good friend, Jesus, could you help me to see myself correctly? What I'm imagining is horrible. All right? Be very, very gentle with yourself. That's the only thing that you deserve. Be very kind with yourself. Right? And be willing to let that kindness and gentleness extend to everyone you come in contact with and everyone that's in your mind. Right? Become that beacon of love. Become that protector of truth. Alrighty then. Be that. I would joke with a receptionist I used to work with. I would say, okay, be that way. And she would look at me and she goes, I am that way. So let's be that way. Let's be in the right mind. Let's be channels of kindness. Be kind. All right then. That's enough of me. Bye now.